$12.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. I guess first we just need to verify, well, let's do the pledge of allegiance. I'm sorry. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is an informational item, so I'll let the item speak for itself. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
There are no questions. We'll move on to attorney's matters. G.
We have the legislative actions for the district later in the agenda, so that's really the only thing I have to report on today, so other than that, no report.
Okay. Thank you, Seth. Now we're on to managers. Matters H1, financials.
These are the first reports you've seen out of the new equipment online system. Right now it's providing a profit loss, which basically summarizes the income received and the expenses. And again, to remind the board, the first couple of months of the fiscal year, you're going to be negative, and then you'll get positive from December, January through March, and then you'll go negative again. But the positives way outweigh the negatives in the year. Usually be fine. The balance sheet is a snapshot of the amount of money in banks and the various assets. So they speak for themselves. If there are any questions, I'll try to answer.
Okay. If there are no questions from the board, we'll move on. Status of the legislative action to split the district and support of interlocal agreement.
I think we're on page 2 right now,
Sorry.
Mr. President.
I'm sorry. I jumped the time. Sorry. Manager's report for the district. I'm sorry.
Well, again, it's an informational item. Any guidance can speak for themselves. Pretty standard operation, months, nothing special going on. If you have any questions, we'd like to answer them.
Hearing none, I think we'll move on to number 3, the status of the sub-lateral inspections. Quick opinion.
Thank you. Pretty standard information I provide each meeting. Just want to clarify for those who aren't sure what this graphic, the color graphic represents. It really is not a condition of the ditch overall. It's a condition of the aquatics, which is primarily what these colors represent. We, as you know, did the tree trimming last fiscal year, and so as far as overhang winds go, we really don't have a major issue. Just most of it all under 40% linear coverage. And access to the ditches we've talked quite a bit about. So really this is more about aquatic vegetation. And we're in pretty good shape with regards to keeping the aquatics at bay, even though we did a spray. And to be honest, haven't sprayed now for over a year and a half. Even the machine does it. Any questions? Just real quick, we're taking care of a couple bad ditches on you, and then we're going 89, which are the most populated areas of the district. And now since we got the aquatics in place, we're going to start focusing on the muck in the bottom. And so for our landowners, what that means is all the dead and decaying vegetation from decades that built up soil. It's not really soil, it's just muckish, you know, all that muck is. And so when we pull that out, there's going to be a lot of it. And so we're probably going to have to stash some of it on the bank and some on the top. And it's not going to be exciting. It's not going to be pretty. Take the Christmas pictures of it. But we'll let everybody know that we'll be hopefully in February starting on that, working, probably starting on 105 and then 107 and then working south from there. After we finish these couple of pictures. That's all I have for number 3.
Okay. No comments. Number 4, review of demand letters.
It is a recreational item. Didn't have much time to put new demand letters out. And you can see from the list there's a lot of potential issues out there that planners need to address. The big issue is just going through the backlog of the last 5 years and making sure that they need taken care of, or if I have to jump on them again. You know, by inspecting the ditches I have in, there's a lot of failing culverts, failing in walls. So I was assuming a lot of those were from demand letters from some years ago. So I expect we're going to find many of those on that list are still applicable from 2020 to 2024, plus the ones that we're finding. But again, it's most information at this time. We will have to grapple sooner than later, more than likely, on what to do when a landowner just does not do what they're supposed to do. And I'll probably start that conversation with our district attorney, just to understand what our options are, and then I'll probably bring it forward to the board whenever it's time. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Okay, so I think we're down to I on the consent agenda. There's no items on that, so we'll move on to public hearings. No requests for any public hearings, so we're down to old business. Okay, the resolution approving application form and district policies.
Has been removed from the agenda, Mr.
I'm
President.
sorry, that's when you said struck. Okay. Status of legislative action to split the district in support of interlocal agreement.
Okay, the update on that is that after my understanding the meeting was held with Representative Brackett and representatives of the community, following that there was a local delegation meeting held via Zoom. That meeting was concluded, and at that time, Representative Brackett has now filed 2 House bills. Those 2 House bills are House Bill 4093 is the Fellsmere district, and House Bill 4095 is the proposed Headwaters district. The bills have been filed, and except for those, they'll be referred to various committees for review by the legislative committees. That's not happened yet, but with regard, they're going to be approved and passed through committee. What I understand, there's still some discussion with the county as they continue to review this and review the language of the bills. So there may be some minor tweaks as it goes through the process. Typically, if that happens, we'll sort of report back on that. But as it stands, the responsibility for what was laid out previously to the board and proposed and agreed to by the county. So that's where it's at, and it's in that saw some paper that is a Tallahassee legislature. That's all I've got on that.
Any questions? Okay.
Actually, yeah, that's not a question, that's a comment. You know, when you guys storm the dirt that you're gonna take out of the ditches, I just spent 3 days cleaning up the dirt that we just took out of the ditches on my road. And, you know, your tractor that comes down with the arm on it can't even reach the bottom of the ditches with the crap you guys took out of there and put it on the right way. So, like I said, I just spent 3 days cleaning up that crap. I'm sure you're not gonna go do it again, but when the tractor came down, he couldn't even reach it because he had to stay on the side of the pile that you guys already had. So, you know, if you guys got a lot of crap, if you're gonna be taking out some of these things, I mean, somebody, they gotta do something with the dirt that comes out. You can't, just keep piling it up on the right of way. I mean, that makes the road look like crap, you can't cut the grass there, and your machines can't even get in there. So, that's just a point I would like to make.
And what's your location of the street?
87th Street, Allison County.
Any comments?
No, he's correct, there are some berms. There are some berms that are growing in height that do take away from the reach of the machine. And it's been more frequently brought to the board's attention about the material. It's just been a balancing act of this board over the past, try to keep the assessments low. Because doing any more than we do now is an added cost that we have to find some way to accommodate.
Thank you. So we move on to K3, annual sublateral maintenance bid results. My understanding is we only received one bid response to what we put out in November.
Yes, Mr. President, we received one bid. The numbers seem reasonable for many of the line items. They're a local firm. And again, this is a contract that does not require us to necessarily sign any work, but is instead structured in a manner where we can authorize work orders under this contract up to our budget amount. So approval of this contract does not obligate spending any money at this time. However, we need to talk with the board about how work orders will be authorized. Will that be done through the district management, or will that be done through the board of supervisors? If it's done through the board of supervisors, then I would like to have a little conversation about what we'd like to authorize to begin with, or whether you just want to hold off for a month or so and see what's going on with the various other items going on in the district before we authorize. And there is one member of the public who's asked to speak on this item.
Anyone wants to speak?
That is me, Mark Becky.
Are you?
You? Anybody else?
Yes, can you tell me who got that bid, who got that contract?
3Ds Tractor Services.
And where they located at?
They're here, they're the feed store people.
Okay.
So, to inform everybody, there originally was some hesitancy by the county as to Fellsmere Water Control District entering into contracts during the pendency of this legislative effort in Tallahassee, because obviously they'd be stepping into these contracts. But these contracts were sent to the county, and I had a conversation with the county 45 minutes ago, and they said they're fine with this contract with 3D. And everybody here should know that it provides with section 13 that the Fellsmere Water Control District may terminate this contract on 30 days written notice without any cost, so we can get out of this period. So I think the contract's acceptable to me. If someone wants to make a motion to approve it, I think we can move forward.
I think Mark and I have had a conversation on this, and it was put out there about there's a restriction on management spending up to $5,000 we voted on. And with this contract being out there, we would have the same type of thing. Mark, do you want to elaborate on that?
Normally, when a contract's approved, that supersedes the 5,000 threshold because the board has approved the contract. In this case, it's a bit of a different contract because each item is a work order. So if the work order exceeds $5,000, there's a very good point that can be made that it should be the board of supervisors who would authorize that work order. But I think either way would work. The motions are crafted appropriately. But again, the board of supervisors that will authorize the work orders, we understand what their intent is. This month, or just put it off until the next month to talk about work orders.
In our conversation, Mark, we had mentioned that maybe it wouldn't need a full board vote. The board can pick It shows you.
I think I defer to the district attorney if that's the case. If they can assign a supervisor to coordinate with the district manager on authorizing the release of work orders, that's something I'd ask Mr. Payne.
Yeah, I mean, by approving the contract, the board can make a determination that it has approved the money to be spent, right? And that's the requirement that's there. Now we're just talking about where it's going to be directed to and what those things are. So I think, we would work out of the way if the board approves the contract and direct someone to coordinate that, or the board as a whole would like to see the work orders come back to them so that they can approve and understand where the work's being directed and where the money is being spent in either way. But the board is comfortable assigning that role to somebody or Mark even coming back to the program and saying, here's this, plan sequencing and we're going to, proceed down sort of this sequence until the money's gone, which is, up, somehow might expect to be out.
I just interject real quick, as part of that last option, you mentioned the sequence of things. I believe there is a recommended sequence in the agenda package. The final page number now.
I think the concern came from the county, I heard from the county, but also us trying to watch fiscally what happens. If you saw in the board document, roughly over $200,000, close to $250,000 spent. And my concern is that I don't want that going out if we have new management that's going to be coming in, if it doesn't have to be. If we give it to the manager to spend that without any checks and balances, and Mark and I spoke about this, actually it's his idea that said, well, maybe we can have a person from the board, instead of having to call that a special meeting or something to okay a $50,000 project or a $30,000 project. It's just to have some oversight on the management and the release of that money. It's an awful lot of money. We're in a state of flux right now. And with the history, I'm not comfortable leaving it with the manager to just, okay, go do this. Yeah, go spend $50,000 and take that trade. I'm not saying that's what it's going to do, but it's just some oversight. And I also think that from the county standpoint, they were concerned about it. My conversation was not 45 minutes ago with the county, but it was the same type of thing of where this contract is going. There is concern. I wasn't privy to the contract, and we don't talk on things. I just heard this for the first time, and I'm happy that, they said, okay, the contract, and we're not concerned. However, I am concerned that you give one person carte blanche to spend all that money. I just would like to see a little oversight. We've already made a decision that the manager only can spend $5,000. I think we can stay with that.
Seth, is it appropriate for us to just delegate responsibility of this to Mark with coordination from Steve for approval on that project?
Yeah, or in the sense of that parameter would be, or what, how you want to, manage that, the payments, like, you want to come, work with, Mark to come back and say, here's the first set of projects, based on their estimate, it'll be this amount, let's authorize that as the first work item, and get through that, and see how it goes, see how efficient they are, have a check of the work that was done, and decide whether to spend it, next $50,000 or whatever. So, I think that might make sense, but, whether it's, delegating authorization, say, hey, let's go ahead and issue that, agree that $50,000 of work to be done, and, Steve can coordinate what the sequencing of that is, and let's come back, or the board would like to see what that project's going to be before it goes out, and we could come back and do it ahead of time. Say that if we approve it, we'd like to see the work get started, so I don't necessarily want to delay it necessarily, but I understand, I think you understand what, again, I haven't seen this, so, if we have some confidence in what that first phase needs to be.
I don't have any objection to, we have to wait and make those decisions at a board meeting. It's not, I'm advocating for me to make those decisions. It's just that Mark had brought the idea up and said that could be something done in the county, because he has the time. Sounds pretty good. But if you want to say that contract, anything over 5,000 has to go to a board meeting, and then it's open to the public. But you have to realize that we have to wait for the board meeting to get work done.
Yeah, and our next board meeting is scheduled for March.
March
So
10th.
so we've got 60 days. I would feel comfortable delegating it to Mark and Steve to coordinate with them, and I'd be comfortable up to $60,000 in terms of design projects to be done, but, you know, obviously, that doesn't mean you need to spend $60,000, but I'm just giving my personal opinion on it.
Mine is still, we came up with $5,000, we just stick with it, anything over 5. Mark, what do you think? Or Tim, sorry.
I think what Greg is offering on the table is kind of a combination of the two. I don't have authority to spend more than 5,000. That still stays on the table. What Greg's saying is that now it's going through me to you up to 60. So that's what I understood you were saying. So I'm still not authorized to spend more than 5 on my own, but I am authorized through your approval to spend up to 60 on this particular project at a time. There may be 2 or 3 work orders at whatever numbers they are, less than 60, or 1 or none.
I mean, you can spend 0, but if there's projects that need it, it's the right thing to do. Just give
You know, that is
ourselves
the other
extra-
option too, of having the contract in place, but slow doing the improvements. Until we have a conversation with the county in more detail about what their expectations are, what their desires are. So having it in place is not a bad idea. It gives us the flexibility to move forward, but we don't have to from day one. There's still plenty of time in dry season from March to May to knock out the critical items that were identified, which was primarily bank restoration. Even with the wet season, you can still do that. You just got to have a bigger pump to buy gas to repair it, that's all.
Go ahead, sir.
How many years is this contract for?
Well,
3.
And after the split, what body of individuals will dictate the passing of what projects get done and how much?
The Board of County Commissioners, how will they dictate the assignment of responsibilities for purchasing?
And when will that change over there?
That is unknown because the legislation of which you're required to make that happen is just at the very beginning of the process. Currently, the legislation says October 1 for effective date, but that may be part of what gets changed in the process.
And if the total of the contract was $2 million?
No, the total is based on the annual budget. $2 million is a reflection of the needs that I portrayed in the bid. But the actual amount that would be spent is always limited by the budgeted funds. This year, we have approximately $200,000 in available funds.
Is it possible that the board might set a certain amount to spend between now and October 1st? That way those funds are still available for the county to use as needed, and that way both your points would be able to be met. You would still be able to go work with Mark, and at the same time, people would feel as though all the funds are being squandered, used as needed, and there would be some left over for the county to use as the people requested to use.
Just looking at my list of partial needs that was in the supplement to this item that was distributed, the bank restoration is probably a little high, but I had $120,000 estimated needs. The clearing, I had $83,000 estimated needs. Again, that might be a little high. And so that right there takes up almost the full 200 if we do all those. But again, these are probably high estimates, so I'd probably say it's more realistically at around 150.
But that doesn't account for all the reserves of the district at the time, correct?
That has nothing to do with reserve, it's all current revenue.
Right, so there is, we anticipate to the county some amount of, what is that number, 500,000 approximately?
550 is what it should be, assuming we spend every part of the budget this year.
From my standpoint, when I saw those numbers, that's where the problem starts happening. $200,000 and all those things. And I understand, you know, the county had voiced their concern a couple of days ago to me about that contract, even about it being signed. But I just don't want carte blanche. No matter what, it's still our money. It's, you know, it's still going to be our money. And 200,000, and there also was, I think, Mark, you had $33,000 going into reserves for all those things on the list.
Well, that's only if we do all. I was
Right.
supposed to do all.
Again, my whole goal is, from my standpoint, is let's just slow down spending the money. Let's spend what we absolutely need. I mean, there's a lot of needs. We could easily spend $750,000 and, you know, bring this up to unbelievable shape. But I'm just trying to slow it down a little bit. That's my only intention, especially during this period of flux. And maybe, what you said, maybe we can mark it.
Well, I will tell you, the county also called me yesterday and said they were very concerned about the contract. And I pointed out to them that in section 13, the district can terminate on 30 days notice without cause. And they said, we're comfortable with the contract. It's kind of, we're going to try them. If you don't have to spend, you know, $5,000, I'm not happy with the work. But I'm not, you know, advocating, but I'm just trying to be responsive. There are some immediate needs that I understand, I'd like to address them. It seems low risk to me if we can cancel the contract in 30 days without cost.
Absolutely, and that's fine. You should award the contract. But again, it's just yoking of, when you award the contract, Mark has a complete say. He can turn around and spend it.
Okay, but what I think we're saying here is that you would
Correct.
be involved, so if it would take both of you agreeing on it, if not, you don't do it.
And that's
But
what,
I hate to put that on you, but I appreciate your willingness to.
great if you want to take it. I don't care who doesn't, if you want to take it. It's just somebody should be overseeing it with that thought. It doesn't have to be me.
So what is the speed of the spend? How much equipment are you have out there? What's the cost per hour? How much expense would be into this project at the end of 1 week? Can you measure that?
The contract is set up on unit prices, so it's not an hourly contract. It's pay for performance, so it's pay for performance, not hourly. So they would do work, we would submit an invoice. I would check that the work they're requesting be paid for has been completed and accepted, and they would get paid for that work. As far as how much machine and manpower they would put on the job, that's something that we would talk about when we're issuing a work order, because there's two parts of the work order. There's the price and there's the time. And we don't want to give a blank check on time either. We want the work done in a reasonable time because the disturbances to the landowners on the road being worked on, what season coming on. We do have a delegate from 3Ds who could certainly speak to that if you wanted to. But I think each task will have a different time limit and different costs. So it's all going to be part of what I also mentioned in the agenda is that when we set up an agenda, a work order, it's going to be signed by both us, me and Steve, as well as the contractor. So there's no he said, she said when it comes time to pay up. You know, it's very clear this is what we agreed on based on the unit prices in the master contract. And this is what we'll do now for work order number 1, and we'll have 3 weeks to do it. And we've agreed upon the units. It's going to be 200 linear feet of bank restoration.
Is there a question?
To make sure I understand your idea correctly, because it sounds like a good one. Steve would also work with Mark to confirm that the work was done to proper spec before the invoice is paid for that work. Is that what you're saying?
It's actually before that, Steve and I would coordinate to make sure that we agreed on the task order being issued.
Okay. Could you also work with Steve at the end
Steve
to
and I
make sure?
should- On a regular basis, so yes, I'm sure it's going to be. I'm sure.
Coffee break.
Oh, there it is again.
You were speaking, I think, weren't you?
I think I answered the question.
I think so. You'd work with Steve
But so truthfully, I don't know 3D at all, but I feel when, somebody, you put out a bid and someone responds with an acceptable bid, that it's good policy to give them a try and see how this works. That's my thoughts on it. If it doesn't work, we just stop. But, October's still a ways off, so we don't want to get behind further.
Yeah, I think I would make a motion that we accept that bid on that contract, with the caveat that Mark and I will both approve expenditures within that contract over $5,000.
I second that motion. Any further comments or questions? Okay.
Can I just say that I've known the contractor almost all his life. His parents are business owners in the community, and I would trust him wholeheartedly.
Well, that helps.
I think the conversation, though, just so everybody's clear, including the contractor, this has nothing to do with your quality of work, your bid, or anything. It's just protecting.
I live here too.
Okay,
And
perfect.
I'm also paying the same as all of you.
In case it did come across that way, that's not
So,
me.
yeah, no, I understand everybody's concern.
So just, I'm gonna be clear, you're gonna approve every $5,000 that are spent on this contract. Is that-
No, over. If there's, we're looking at, if Mark has something that says we've got to take out trees, we go by the contract, and the contract comes back and says, to do this length, it's going to cost $30,000. He can't commence work until Mark says, go ahead, signs it, and I say, yeah, okay. The purpose there is, why are you taking out that tree? We don't need to spend $30,000 on that particular tree. We have other needs to spend that money, and we just want to slow it down. That's all it is. And we work together, Mark and I, since I team up, we're constantly trying to hash things out.
Does your motion have a limit on what me and you can approve together?
A number limit? No, I don't think it can, because there might be some jobs that.
All right, I just want to clarify for the board.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Okay. Now to L, new business on district management considerations. You want to talk about this, Mark, or?
I'll be happy to, and also, there was one speaker who's requested to speak on this, Mr. Kopecki.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. I looked through the notes that Mark provided in the meeting document here, and I just had a couple of observations. You mentioned, if I understood correctly, Mark, that you figured that because we'd have to hire an engineer to do some of the work that you've been doing, it might be $6,000, is that right?
6 to 10, somewhere in there, yes.
Okay. I would guess that we would also not have to have a contracted bookkeeper then. So that expense that we've got right now should come off.
That would be a wash, yes.
So that would be something to consider. And then another thing too is, we right now don't have a manager on site 5 days a week. And I don't think we would need a manager on site 5 days a week. I think we could get by with somebody being on site up here 2, maybe 3 days a week. So I throw that out as a suggestion to maybe go back and revisit with SDS and see what kind of a number they can shoot us with a little bit less on in-person time.
I'll just respond to that before I get in. Those are the same thoughts I have as well. I don't spend 40 hours a week managing maintenance, so I agree, we don't need 40 hours. You are right, I'm here 4 days a week, and during those 4 days, I'm in and out of the office as well. The budget numbers that are in the packet was assuming about 30 hours a week. Maybe less, certainly don't think it needs to be more. But as far as the presentation around this matter, this was just an idea of landing at the last meeting, and just went ahead and move forward with it, and talk with special district services, and because of the unknown nature of the duration of this contract, they have revised their original proposal back in October, when it was for a different purpose. to reflect the potential temporary nature of this deal. And as a temporary nature, they don't have a staff member to sit in the office 2 to 3 days a week and maintain oversight of the main staff. And so if we were to make a change, it would be a partnership between Special District Services and Tradesmen's International. This is the same company that we're using for the machine operator. They would bring in an experienced person to do maintenance, management oversight. So you would be paying SDS for the administrative oversight and management of the district, and you'd be paying Tradesmen International for the on-site services and the management of the maintenance side of the system. And Tradesmen has come back with $45 per hour. And you have the numbers for the district services in your supplemental release for this item. It was $42,000 for administration, $3,000 for things on the website, and $500 for the annual assessment total, plus any additional services they're requesting, plus any reimbursements, travels and copies and so forth.
Yes, Mark, go ahead.
So are you saying that we would, if that would be the case, we would hire the same outfit that's providing the equipment operator to oversee the equipment operator?
Yes.
Wow, I'm not impressed with that idea at all.
And you think there's going to be some collusion between the two, so we're just be done right? Is that the concern?
Well, the guy that they sent over took him 3 months to figure out how to run the machine. So when they send over a supervisor, is it going to take them 3 months to figure out how to supervise?
I think part of that on the operator, the machine is us up here, management. He wasn't managed, he just went out, Jeff, myself, and Mark, and he just went out with us, what, 3 weeks ago, Mark? 3-4 weeks ago. I will say that it was very educational for all of us, but especially him. And he thanked us. It really was our fault. I think that alluded to this before. It's our fault to manage and someone to watch. We absolutely need somebody in the field to watch, but he really had no idea on the water system. I think he does now. We listened to some of the things he said. They were positive. Jeff was there. They were very positive. Time will tell. One of the problems is that SDS won't come in and give us that person in the office. Am I correct?
Recognize Frank Skuman.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all again. So, because of the potential short-term nature of the contract, let me back up. We were prepared to hire a person and put them into the office under task 7, I believe, in the proposal. But understanding that you currently have legislation reducing the size of the existing district, creating a new district, we can't realistically go out and hire somebody and go, one, we don't know the length of the contract, but we'd really like you to come work for us. And then two, we have no idea what the county's going to do once they come in. So with that information at hand, the best that we can offer you realistically is we can cover all the back office, the meetings, the agendas, the records, the finances, but we can't realistically promise that we'll be able to get you a quality candidate to sit in that office for however many hours you need a week for just a short-term 6 to 9 month contract. So we thought that, in my discussions with Mark, we thought that you've already got a temp agency providing services. If that's an option, great. I mean, if you had to put the scope of work for that other individual, so many hours, you get the benefit of having somebody in the office that anyone can call during those office hours and still be able to have some oversight in the field. Well, until Mark mentioned it would be, brothers effectively. I don't have a solution for that. But that was the reason that we decided to pull out the staffing of a.
So, and where this went, I reached out to SDS a long time ago when we heard that we might be needing them because there's going to be this split and what's going to cost us for Mark. It had nothing to do with the current situation right now. So we had gotten a price, and we were going off that, but things changed. We had a conference call last week, and we discussed things. And unfortunately, they came back, they could not provide that supervision. Myself, personally, I've watched and kind of seen things in the office. I've heard Mark tell myself, Jeff, that it don't take a lot of hours to do the management side. I personally think that 30 hours a week is too much. You don't need a person there 30 hours a week. A 4-hour day would be more than enough. From my standpoint, seeing things 4 hours a day would be more than enough. That's 20 hours a week. I looked at that, and Mark and I talked this afternoon again. There were some figures missing, the 12,000 for the, our bookkeeping, which you guys, it says in the contract, take care of all financials, reporting, so on and so forth. I think if you look at the cost comparison with that added in there, Mark, I told you about, I think you were at 197,000 in that top box, adding 12 to say 885. This is for the year, not for the remaining. But then if we use special district services and tradesmen, because you still really need somebody to supervise. And I'm not going to do it. I've heard people say, I'm not going to do it. The boss back there, she won't let me do it. It's not going to happen, all right? Plus, I'm not an engineer. So Mark said that tradesman was on the conference call with us. We, all 4 of us, right? We were on the call. And they said they'd be willing to step up. Initially, in this, what you have in your board pack, that's $50 an hour at 30 hours a week, $78,000. They lowered their rate, Mark told me today, to $45 an hour. And if we did 20 hours a week, that puts a guy there, if you want him there 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, right? Course of the year, that's $46,800. So those 2 things, us in-house, having our manager, our bookkeeper, all that, comes out to $197,000 some change. Having SDS and tradesmen comes out to $108,000.
Wow.
That's a difference. To the penny, it's $89,154 per year. That's the difference in that type of a management structure. Okay. Now don't forget, we're not comparing apples to apples. Mark does 40 hours, they will do 20. But it is a comparison on management. And that's kind of where we're at right now. This was, Karen's not here, but this was pushed by Karen. Again, the initial thing was just, hey, can you help us if we split our district? But it morphed into where we're at today. Quick explanation, quick money thing. Mark, you know the numbers.
I was just going to add that the longer we wait to take action, if there's a desire to go this route, the less benefits there are. I mean, if we postpone this March, instead of being a 9-month, now it becomes a 7 or 6 month. It just becomes a lot more, there's a lot less value in the move if we postpone it longer and longer.
You're looking at, if you took that 89,000 and divided it by 12, you're looking at $7,416 in savings per month if you switch. So Mark is right. If we continue the way we're going, that's $7,416 that we're paying for the status quo, where if we made a change. That's, I guess, what's on the table right now. And Mark, you kind of put this together, your feelings?
Well, if there is a desire to move in this direction, I would ask for a week, maybe 2-week overlap between me and the unit staff, so that we can can step in late January and have that transfer happen. I'm not going to provide a recommendation, I'm recommending I lose my job. But again, it does have value and benefits to the landowners.
And the original bill was the budget like, maybe contract, like, you know, if Mark's like, he's going to oversee that, and then now it's school board entirely, is, SDS going to be picked up on, where the district process is now, and Mark will oversee that, and it just, I'm not trying to, practically speaking, that's a, or there's something tradesmen can do, I don't know, tradesmen can provide oversight to.
Seth, could I ask, could you please move your mic to the other side?
Yeah, so I'm talking, thank you. You got any of that?
And actually, Frank, I'm sorry, Mr. Schumer, could you answer that for us? I mean, there's things in here about the management. Is that something that SDS does?
So we are not going to provide it's not me. So we're not going to provide engineering services. So we're not going to tell you how to clean the ditches, what ditches need to be cleaned, what banks need to be repaired. We will assist with managing the contract, helping you pay the bills, but we're not qualified to do that work. Your district engineer would be the person that you, if Mark was gone, your district engineer.
Damn, Mark, what are you doing, son?
Would be probably the best point of contact to help get the works of the district maintained.
Frank, do you have any other water control districts where you provide this type of service?
Delta Farms, Capron Trails closest to water control, but they're a CBD. Sebastian River Improvement District was a water control district that just kind of changed their entity status, but they still primarily move water. And for those districts, the works of the district are mostly overseen by the engineer to make sure that everything's getting done.
But the boots on the ground activity that Mark provides, that's not your scope of work you're proposing?
No, it's not an SDS, no.
Not in the administrative side of the contract.
As I understand it, would be trading and supervising the equipment.
And Mark, we have an engineering firm under contract right now on a project basis.
We have 3 engineers under contract, none of them are designated the district engineer. We're under contract.
From my view, there's a lot of moving parts right now. There's a lot going on in the next 90 days. If you look back at, the map that was provided to the board, I think it was in April, and you compare that color-coded map, what we got for this board meeting, there's a lot more blue and green on this map than there was back then. So there's progress being made. So, in my view, we should keep moving forward, continue with Mark and the work that's being done and the progress being made until we get through the next 90 days or so.
I don't disagree with that. Mark was making a point, though, that earlier that the longer you wait, the less savings there are. So that's what's really important.
It's not just savings either, it's also, you're going to lose easily a month in transition, where you're training a new person up, a new person's getting feet in there, so there'll be a little bit of lost time, lost momentum in there as well.
And I do think that, practically speaking, before you do that, you can talk to those engineering firms and see what is going to take on the role of district engineer. There needs somebody that is the overseer of the works and can certify projects, can certify the work getting done by, 3D or whomever, to make sure that it's being done to district standards. That's not a role for the board to do. Mark, you're qualified to do it. I think we're in a position, practically speaking, if we do want to go with SDS, I think we need to have one of those engineering firms agree or have some contract with the
Seth, my question would be, do you need to do a brand new CCA process that designate one of those as a district engineer, or do you just appoint one?
I don't think so, I've never under contract, I mean, I think, you know, the scope of it, we already procured them. I think we could proceed if we're willing to step into the role.
So Mark, I'm hearing you really don't want to continue, you know, staying on that limited role of the district engineer.
I want what's best for the district, and you can't ignore the savings when the county's asking for reserves. SDS does a good job managing the administrative side. The only unknown is what do we get for tradesmen? Mark's point earlier, what do we get? But we will get those with resumes for the people they've offered. We'll be able to talk to those people and see if it's a fit. And if not, tradesmen goes back to the well and find somebody else to present to us. We're currently waiting for resumes of people they found to vet.
Was there a question put to tradesmen about a engineer?
I did mention to them that a retired engineer would be a great idea, because they might be able to be the district engineer at the same point, but I think assigning one of the consulting engineers is that serves its purpose too. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about engineers reviewing for maintenance standards, maintenance you dig ditches, and we're at the point now where we're taking money, put the sumps in, so it's not a lot for a licensed civil engineer really to be involved with those kind of things. I'm fine with just being a supervisor. I think it'd be just fine as long as we've got the experience and ability. And we'll figure that out when we get the resumes from Tracy. And we already have a contract with Tracy, so really it would just be an extension of the existing contract, just adding another person to it. So it's not like a brand new contract with Tracy. We already have one. It'd just be adding another scope to that contract.
Seth, I want to understand your earlier comment, you know, we know that we're required to have a district engineer through 98. Are you saying that they need to be actively involved in supervising work, or they're just there for us to consult with?
The latter is the answer. They need to be available, they need to be able to certify the work that's been done. They don't need to be in the office, they don't need to be on site, district engineer. Most of our district engineers that's not how they operate. They're not an integral part of the day-to-day operation of the district. They're there to do a lot of work, reviewing permits when they come in, reviewing new work that's being performed. And in this case, like I said, when I work performed in the system.
It's maintenance.
Yeah, exactly. It's maintenance, but somebody maintenance. There's bank restoration, right? Somebody else will be putting eyes on that. Again, it doesn't need to be a lot of work, but there needs to be somebody in place. Yeah. And then mark for that $6,000 to $10,000 number on it, and maybe that's sufficient. Maybe it is just coming out once or twice a month to review work.
And again, I would expect the expenses to be higher, but the higher expenses would be reimbursable. They would be the permit reviews, the permit inspections. So I'm not saying we don't spend 10 grand on engineering, it could be 20, but 10 of that's going to be permit reimbursable. When you look at what the district engineer did when I first got here, it was basically an annual report and whatever else was asked of the board. And he attended meetings. So you pay for them to attend meetings, which you don't have to have them attend meetings, but normally that's the case. And you pay for them to do an annual report. Everything else besides that should be reimbursable or close to it.
I think somebody really should oversee this because, a guy in the machine, I don't know these people's talent or anything else, but I mean, you can mess up something pretty fast, so somebody's got to be like checking grades and, seeing if the slope is right. Engineers don't have to be there, the whole 8 hours to keep somebody working. I mean, they come out and just, check it once in a while. I mean, probably even like a site manager could do it.
I think we could have, I could sit in the office and do that, and you don't have to be an engineer, anybody could do that, who has maybe some experience, running equipment, that type of thing. But the problem starts popping up when, okay, there's a couple ditches, Mark and I know, it's some serious work, and maybe an engineer should oversee. Mark has been our engineer to oversee those types of jobs. And that's correct, that's what you're saying. Some maintenance kind of goes above and beyond just taking dirt out of the
But
ditch.
again, it doesn't mean they're there while the work is
No,
going on.
we're not there while the work is
When
done.
the contractor says, I got my density test done, here's a copy of my density test, okay, yes, you can proceed. No, I think generally when we do construction engineering inspection, it's not licensed engineers out there, it's someone below that who's out there in the field checking things, and the engineer, as was said, comes in when they're needed.
I think it'd be a lot cheaper to have somebody just supervise or just go and check than it would be to fix something that got totally messed up. Because big machines can do a lot of damage. That's just my opinion.
Sadly, we're in a state of flux with this legislation too.
Well, I'm a guy who can get stuff done, but somebody's got to know what they're looking at, when these things start getting done. You don't want to be halfway down the ditch and all of a sudden there's a big belly in there. And, well, I didn't see it because the ditch is a mile long, we've got a lot of trees. Just on my street, they took out freaking 7-8 foot palm trees out of that thing. And like I said, then threw it on the side. And I spent all that time cleaning it up. But that's neither here nor there. I'd rather get the ditch cleaned out once and then clean up the crap, all right, if I have to do it, then I'm gonna do it. But, I don't wanna have to pay in my taxes for everybody you guys to come back and fix the ditch that don't work.
And that is the conundrum that we're in, as Mark brought up. The person digging the ditch is being supervised by the company we're paying. We're paying both of them. If SDS was able to provide that service of overseeing everything, there'd be no problems.
Well, the guy digging the ditch should have a boss that's actually watching, or, coming every day and looking, but there should be somebody else following up behind that, and just even if you're just, you just shoot a couple of graves down the ditch or something like that. I think it's better safe than sorry, in my opinion. I'm not saying we should, add on hundreds of thousands of dollars for somebody to do that, but I think that's the way to go.
Anybody have some thoughts, ideas?
So we got 3 moving parts we're trying to put together here. The first one is triggered if we hire SDS, which would trigger Mark stepping away from responsibilities at the district. Then that creates an issue of, okay, look, we're going to have somebody needs to supervise the tradesman, equipment operator, and whether having tradesmen supervise tradesmen is something we're comfortable with. And that leads us into a discussion of do we need to engage in this vacuum. So we're looking at three different moves on the chessboard right here, trying to make it work. But I guess let's just have a discussion of hypothetically what we're going to do with SDS. Is everybody comfortable with the contract with SDS at $45,000?
Yeah. I'm comfortable with them doing the management part. Absolutely. I've seen their work too. I kind of like their work.
Okay, so I'm going to assume we're going to take a vote in a few minutes, but in the meanwhile, we have to fill in those 2 blanks. So, is there someone besides tradesmen that we can have supervise tradesmen?
We could also have one of the engineering firms do that with one of their junior engineering trainings or civil engineer 1, probably a little bit before
transition. It also would, from the county standpoint, I would think that it would help with the transition along the way. If we approached them and said, can we have an agreement with you guys and you provide oversight, they have the engineering, and I'm not picky, I don't care, I mean, we have a representative of the city here, if it would be the engineering from the city and the city, but if they would manage the cleaning operations, that would also open up. Again, there's so much in flux. We don't even know if this bill is going to go through, if they're going to meet some of the demands of the community. But that's just an idea that they oversee the operator. They're not from the same company.
The only problem I see with the city is they'd be going outside the city. For somebody working in the
Correct.
city, most of this land you're talking about is outside the city. I'm not sure if that quite fits. Did you have a comment over here? Go ahead.
Yeah. So to Steve's point of the oversight being done by, I think, like you said, the county would probably be better than the city because the city only extends to a certain point. To that point, is there a minimum number of months or years to this contract, or can it be terminated at any time?
Just say that again?
So,
There is no term. It can be canceled on 60 days written notice.
I'm sorry, I was trying to go through the contract, I couldn't get there fast enough, so I appreciate that.
No term, 60 days notice.
Anybody in the audience have any insight as to what the county might feel about having supervisory responsibilities for a contracted operator on cleaning ditches in the
I
Fellsmere?
think it's almost like, an inspection for building permit. I mean, that's kind of, what you're doing. You're just taking and, cleaning out the dishes, but you want it to be the same as it was. You don't want it 3 feet deeper than it was. Where everything's not, some places might flow, some places might not. I mean, yeah, they all kind of go downhill, and, but that doesn't mean it works right.
As an interim too, you could also start with tradesmen while you work through with the county or work through with the engineers to see if there's a fit there. So I don't recommend you do SDS and not the second part because then you're going to have anybody managing the maintenance side.
Could we proceed with SDS, exactly like Mark said, and then at a later time, we would see if tradesman is doing the job that people want, and if not, we could then maybe in March at the March meeting.
Well, I'm recommending that we do not hire SDS without also hiring the maintenance supervisor.
Correct.
And my recommendation is if there's an interest and concern about tradesmen watching tradesmen, that we enter with tradesmen on the knowledge that as soon as we can find a replacement for tradesmen, we'll find a replacement for tradesmen.
The only problem with that is we don't know where the county stands. They're not willing to help us.
Might give us
We're still back to square one.
I think we're in a situation where we have to, at this point, move forward. I mean, it's definitely imperfect, but it is temporary. Move forward. We're going to do SDS, then go with tradesmen because they're the only one we have a commitment to do that supervisory work. And to Mark's point, that maybe if we can get a junior engineer supervisor from one of the engineering firms to come out and check on that. But that's to be determined. If we want to move forward tonight, I think we have to take that little leap of faith. Is what I'm saying. And I would like it to. I don't think I'm certain.
Or we push it till March and we just realize less savings.
Yeah, about $15,000.
And you're right, like Mark said, there obviously needs to be some overlap, they're not thinking about today. I think all these engineering firms, assuming some of them have civil, all those guys have field inspectors and field inspection teams, so I think, one of them will be a good choice to step up.
Okay, you want to take these in three motions or two motions? I think we got to break this into. The first motion would be to accept the SDS contract, $45,000 for taking over the administrative management responsibility. So
I'll make that motion, and along with that motion, the notice is
clarification, 45 is for the management of the district, $3,000 per year in monthly invoicing is for the website, and then $500 is for the assessment role. And our understanding is that we are not going to provide task number 7.
You're not going to provide what?
Task number 7, which is the 100% employee.
That's correct.
Not managing maintenance.
Right, yeah.
And is this, we should probably also have an effective date for when they come on board. Is it tomorrow? Is it a week from tomorrow? When is the effective date?
I guess what we can do is ask, when would you be able to start?
Well, it won't be tomorrow. In order to have, well, I guess that depends. If you're going to depart February 1st, we would like at least 2 weeks of having Mark on site. So just back 2 weeks out of the end of the month, and pick a weekday would be fine.
So it's not tomorrow, but it's the day after tomorrow. Just kidding.
1450. Yeah.
About the
Monday.
January 19th.
And that, then your contract would be 30-day periods running to every January 19th. Is that how that would do, or you prorate it? Just trying to figure out what we're looking at.
We'll prorate the month of January for invoicing and then just bill for 4 months until the end of the contract.
How much is it?
I think we've got a motion, a second, and we've had the discussion. So all in favor of the motion to engage SES for the contract terms as discussed, say aye. Aye. So the motion passes. Now we have to do the second part, which is the engagement of tradesman supervisor.
Tradesman International as a supervisor of maintenance, and this would be basically the amendment of the current scope of work in the existing contract to add the job description of the supervisor of plant operations, which we have, basically overseeing the operations of the plant.
Plant operations actually means the ditches in the field, correct? Okay. Need a motion to that effect?
Yeah, I think unfortunately there's no perfect solution, but this one could work. Mark, would we need to have hours? How's that work for tradesmen?
I would ask that we have a maximum hourly and a maximum hours, but have the flexibility to go under. Even though they've offered 45, if we come back and say we're not doing 30, we're only doing 20, the person may say, I'm not interested anymore. So I would recommend a maximum of 50, as a rule for minimum budget items.
A maximum of what?
Maximum $50 an hour,
Okay.
and I'm comfortable up to 20 hours a week. I don't believe we need 30 either, so up to 20 hours a week, up to $50 a week.
Yeah, I would make that motion to reach out to tradesmen with those stipulations.
Okay, so I have a motion. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion on the contract to engage tradesmen for the supervisory role in the field? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Third point was the district engineer.
Yeah, authorizing you to. We have those 3 contracts existing, right?
According to the district attorney,
Yeah.
we should just be able to assign that as a task to one of the engineers. And only 2 of the 3 firms are suitable for this job. Remember, the third firm is a modeling firm. They don't do, civil site infrastructure. So it would be Bowman Engineering or Culpepper and Turbine.
Since we've already approved those contracts, do we need to come back and have a board? I mean, we can certainly ratify it in March, but
Yeah, I think, they're all the kind of do it under their existing, the term, as long as the terms are consistent with what was approved as far as hourly rate, whatever. And there's understanding that it's not going to be extraordinary amount of work between now and March, right? Other than the stuff that's passed through, which is whatever it needs to be. Mark, have that conversation if there's any concern or, with that. We can come back on that. But, it'll be fine if you want.
okay. So we don't need to do a motion on that.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
And
All
I'll
right.
bring back that in March is what I'm hearing. Now, SDS will bring that back in March. For
Okay.
verification.
Welcome aboard, Frank. All right, we're down to M, comments. Comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Hearing none.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any board member comments?
No, just that, after our last meeting, we did look into things, I looked into things with the county. With the public, E-Flog has been instrumental in trying to figure out what would happen with the split. And I just want to thank the citizens, the people out in the audience and some that aren't here, for trying to move this forward. Everybody in here, and I mean everybody in here, should know that this is not a done deal. That's the way it's been explained to the citizens, that they still have, with the representative, and these were his words, they have the power to have that whole bill pulled up to the last minute. That's what we've been told. That's my belief. So that's kind of where we're at now. Hence all the caution and everything is moving forward with this board. That's all I have to add.
Okay,